This is UNG Nighthawk's All-Access. Hello everyone, Craig Corbin, and thanks so much for joining us again. Our look behind the scenes at the coaches, the student athletes, and staff here that make athletics work at the University of North Georgia. Pleased to be joined by Coach Williams. Coach,
thank you.
Great to see you as always.
As always.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
You know, we're sort of in the winter months, but that, as far as cross country and track, doesn't mean downtime.
No.
At all.
Not at all. Actually, it's probably the most important part of our season is the off season. So yes, they've been running and they've been doing their tasks as been assigned, so I've been very pleased with the girls.
Let's talk a little bit about the off-season regimen, because I know that people would probably be a little bit more familiar perhaps with the routine in between meets and during the season. What is a normal day or week for the team?
Well, for track and field, you have 21 events. Now, we do not do all 21 events. We're not going to do the hammer. We don't have a place to do that. But we're trying to work through and get people involved in each of the events. So part of it is just learning new athletes that are coming into the program, trying to find a home for them. Some, have it coming from high school, and they just go into that event. But then we are also trying to find what other skills and talents they have. So pretty much of January for the track and field is just evaluation. Just building up their background so they can handle more volume. Now we're coming to a competition on the 22nd. Things have changed this last week because today will be the last thing that we do is really kind of hard so that they'll be fresher on Saturday. So the early part is getting a background in endurance, getting them ready for their events, working them on blocks, working them on exchanges, if they're a field event person as well, if they're a hurdler, everyone has their thing, and you got to kind of set up a practice I call individual work for each of the athletes. Now the distance group come over, and there's like 9 in one group and there's 6 in another group, so they kind of go mid-distance and distance. So we kind of break it out, and even with them we have a girl that came on board this spring that's going to be a distance runner, and was trying to find whether she's going to be mid-distance or distance, and I think she's going to find her home in distance, and I think she's also going to be a steeplechaser for us.
Excellent. That's exciting.
Yeah, and that's what you do. My best story is Bree Hammond. When I couldn't find an event for her at Emory her first year, and I suggested to her the steeple, and she got excited and jumped right in it, and the rest is history. She was runner-up in the conference last year, and we hope she can do a step better this year.
That's great. Steeplechase is such a unique event.
Yeah, and we don't have any place to practice it.
Right,
so.
right.
So we set up hurdles on the track in the locations that the barriers would be. Actually, we've had a parent, Kenny Rodney, is also steepchaser. Her dad built us a mini steeple barrier.
Nice.
And we put it in front of the long jump pit, so they go up on it on the runway and then into the long jump pit to simulate going into the water.
Now, out of curiosity, are those 4x4s or 6x6?
4x4.
4x4s. So pretty solid. And we've all seen video of competitors that have slipped and gone into the steeple barrier.
Anytime there's a steeplechase going on, the majority of people will surround the water jump.
Right.
All looking for that experience when somebody oops over into the water. But it happens, and it happens during just the barriers themselves where people will stumble.
Absolutely.
It's a very demanding event. It's
the combination of a pretty good distance. You've got the hurdling and then the water to deal with.
Yes, there's 5 barriers each time they go around,
right.
And they got 7 laps to go, so they fatigue. Fatigue is a big part of it.
Right.
So what we do is we'll start them over a series of 5 hurdles, and then move in 10, and then eventually 15. So eventually in the practice over the season, they'll get up to at least half, if not 20 hurdles that they'll do in practice. I don't have them do a full 35 because it's just too demanding on them, and you just don't want to tear them down and fatigue them in practice. You kind of want to save them for the meets.
Absolutely. Of course, track here at North Georgia came after cross country.
Correct.
So that was the entry into the world of running.
Yeah, they reinstated cross country in 2012 and reinstated women's track and field in 2017. So we've completed 3 years. We're into our fourth, and we're still kind of feeling and learning our way. It's more of a financial thing than anything. Is just the budget to do something.
Sure.
So we'll go to the conference meet, and that's why we're doing track. There is a non-championship season for cross country where you could participate in 5 track meets, but you could not go to the conference meet, nor could you qualify for nationals. So having track and field allows our athletes to have a championship experience in the fall, come back and have one in the spring, and still have an opportunity to qualify for nationals.
That's the perfect combination.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you look at the number of student athletes currently competing for the Nighthawks in track, what's that number now?
31.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
That's a good
now,
squad.
that includes Amani Arnold,
Right.
who's a dual sport athlete.
Absolutely.
She's not out there with us yet, but she'll get there.
Absolutely.
She will get there.
Absolutely.
And we'll make a very strong impression when she does.
Without question. Cross country, extremely successful in recent years. In 2017, the first conference championship in program history. And it has to have been enjoyable to watch the program develop to that point.
Yeah, when we had our banquet, I always worry about that the history is going to get lost. It's just something with me, and we try to go back through, or I do at the banquet, because you have new freshmen, new parents that really don't know the history of where we came from, and starting over a program, you can kind of laugh about it now, but at the time, it was not an easy thing to do.
Sure.
But I tell people that it made me a better coach. I actually had to relearn things and become a teacher of the sport again, where after 20 years at the same high school and working with a lot of the same coaches, it got kind of easy for me, and it sort of kind of just rolled out. But when we restarted it here, it was getting your feet wet pretty quickly, and we've done some nice things. We've had some very good people in the program, and it's just been a very good experience.
I'm sure that for many viewers that might not be familiar with all that goes into a season of competition, training, and peaking at the right time of the season, that is such a tough and difficult challenge for each individual performer. How do you approach that?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever find perfection.
Yeah.
I think every coach will tell you is that what worked last year may not work this year because of personalities, and look what we've had weather-wise.
Sure.
I've already made adjustments because of weather this far this season, and yes, I do try to have our athletes to be in their best when it comes to conference, because that's the most important meet. So I do things earlier where sometimes they're not as happy with me, but it's for them to get to that place.
Looking at the big picture.
Yes. You always got to know that, and my wife always laughs at me because I know there's 65 days till the end of conference, and people will say, wait a second, yeah, I know how many days, because it's important to count those days.
Absolutely.
So we can get the cycle of the training in that, we need to be in. So I work very hard at it, but it's not an exact science, and I've been fairly successful with many of them. But some, like Amani, will come out and have 3 weeks of training maybe and be an all-conference performer.
Sure.
Because she's an athlete.
Right.
She is just very talented, and you're blessed to have somebody of that nature. As same as Aaliyah Johnson and Abigail and others, they, in spite of what I do, they still do well.
Well, you made mention of knowing exactly the number of days until conference, and while daily regimen in all sports is important, I would dare say that probably even more so in the running events, because of just what you talked about, and knowing exactly what you're pushing those athletes to do on a very carefully crafted regimen?
That's the big thing. I think when I work a camp in the summer and I do a coach's clinic, and everybody wants to know the secret. And there really is no secret. It's hard work and being consistent and understanding there's different energy systems and there's a time to emphasize one over another. And so you've got a primary thing at this part of the season, another energy that may be secondary, another one's secondary, and then as the season changes, that primary today will become a secondary one and one of the others will move up as a primary one. So you try to take them through in a manner that they can handle the rigors of that race, primary race that they have. And each one is different. A 400 is different than 800. 15 is different than that. There's just different, and it's just the way they race. There is not a 1500 at the collegiate level that it doesn't become a 300-meter sprint.
Right.
They just set it up. They just all wait.
They'll sit and wait.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then boom, you can't be asleep. You can't be it.
And that's sort of the bell lap.
Yeah,
That's the bell lap for that last lap
Yeah.
of 1500.
And it just, you would think strategy-wise, all the literature says, okay, you negative split. No, it's not going to happen. It's just the way they race it. So everything, you've got to be prepared, and it's much mental to have that preparation, because at times along the race, the tendencies for some athletes to kind of fall asleep a little bit, get comfortable in their pace.
Be lulled.
And then all of a sudden, somebody makes a move, and they look, oh my God, I'm 10 meters behind. What happened?
Right.
So you got to constantly, keep them, and you try to do some games in practice to try to keep them a little bit alert. You might tell a runner at some point, take them over the side. Okay, on the third lap, when you get to the 100-meter mark, I want you to put a surge in.
Right.
And just the other ones are going to go, whoa, what happened here?
Exactly.
And it just, you try to mimic things they will experience when they get fatigued in a race.
Well, we appreciate what you have done here at North Georgia, all the knowledge and experience you've shared with so many of the coaches at those clinics and the program there in Western North Carolina. But it is always a pleasure to watch as the season unfolds here.
And it will. Ready or not, it's coming.
And we will anxiously await those results. But it's been a pleasure to visit with you. We thank you for being a part of All Access.
Well, thank you very much.
Coach Williams.
Enjoy it always.
Absolutely. Stay with us. We'll continue in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Sonia McClain with Red Rooster Realty. Fall is right around the corner, and it doesn't get any prettier than this. Have you been thinking about buying in Georgia's Lake and Mountain Paradise? Give me a call at 770-480-4777.
The UNG Bookstore is the one-stop shop where students can get anything they need for the classroom, and fans can find everything they need to support the Nighthawks, from shirts and jackets to car decals and tailgating chairs. Gear up at the Nighthawks nest with officially licensed UNG merchandise. Be sure to shop in store to find the item of the week. Visit our stores in Dahlonega, Gainesville, Oconee, and Cumming, or check us out online at ungbookstore.com. The UNG Bookstore is a proud sponsor of North Georgia Athletics.
A lot of excitement around North Georgia on homecoming weekend. Of course, it was a doubleheader sweep for the basketball programs, but during the afternoon, a big announcement, a new partnership between North Georgia Athletics and Northeast Georgia Health System. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. A lot of excitement on homecoming day. A doubleheader sweep for the Nighthawks, indeed. Stay with us. All Access continues in just a moment.
Shop, play, and stay in Dahlonega, the heart of the North Georgia mountains.
Nighthawks All Access continues now. Time for our Nighthawk Spotlight of the show, and always my favorite segment of the program. So pleased to be joined by Tobin Sanctuary. Tobin, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you can tell that we are in the home of the rifle team, and so much competition that you have been involved in right here over the last 4 years. What's it been like at North Georgia?
It's been great. It's definitely different from when I was shooting in high school back at a local club. I love shooting on electronic targets, which is awesome, and I think it's great to have. It's a very much individual sport, so being able to shoot for 4 years on a team has been really awesome.
Now, congratulations, you're in order. In November of last year, recognized as the Southern Conference Air Rifle Athlete of the Month, and that is not the first accolade from the SOCON that you've received. It's been pretty regular through your time here at North Georgia. I know that the team has been very successful in conference competition in your time here. Talk about that. What's it been like from the competitive standpoint in the Southern Conference?
Well, coming in, we had a really strong team, which was cool to be able to come in and be able to have growth, that knowing that I needed to improve and kind of have that push. But early on, it was kind of interesting because every match that I'd go to, I just wanted to do the best that I could, and the team score kind of just ended up how it was, and we ended up doing really well. We won our first 2 championships that I was here for, and then last year we weren't able to, but we'll be back at it this year. But it was interesting just to kind of go through the years. Coming in, I was so focused on my own performance, and if I did well, then that was good, and then the rest of the team, is just how it was. But now, kind of this being my last year, I'm more focused on kind of team total score, which is, it's nice. It almost takes pressure off of me because I want to see the team succeed, instead of just being so focused on myself.
And the team has done extremely well. As we sit here today, I think national ranking of 20th. So it's been a top 20 has been the norm, I think, in recent years, and that's phenomenal. That has to be a lot of fun to know that you are part of one of the elite rifle teams in the country. Talk about that.
Yeah, so it's really just awesome to be here, but to kind of think back to when I was in high school and I found out that you could go to college for shooting, and that was just kind of like my ultimate goal, was to get to college and shoot on a team. And now I kind of got used to it, I guess, over the years, but now I'm able to actually reflect on it and see that how far I've come, and to be able to have these experiences of traveling all over the country and shooting in competitions every weekend. It's just a really awesome experience, and to be able to do something that I just really enjoy.
You talked about shooting on the high school prep level.
Yeah.
Compare that to making the jump into collegiate competition.
Yeah, so a lot more practice, a lot more time commitment, and having the team aspect is definitely a lot different, because in high school, it wasn't a high school team up north, it was just a local club.
Right.
And they basically just, if you were interested, you could start, and then your interest level basically determined how much you invested in it.
When did you know that you wanted to continue competitively on the collegiate level?
It wasn't too long after I started that I kind of realized that that's something I wanted to do. I was homeschooled, as I mentioned before, up until my freshman year of high school. And I didn't really play any sports. I kind of wanted to, but the town that we were from, they had a baseball team, but that was kind of being gotten rid of, and so I just didn't really have any sports that I played. And so being able to go to a local club and shoot and have that be something that I was good at was kind of surprising, and I just really enjoyed it. And so I kind of stuck with it and kept going, and going to competitions was fun, and then eventually starting to win them, and I'm like, wow, this may be something that I could go to college for.
And then I guess the next question would be, how did you wind up here at North Georgia? Talk about that.
Yeah, so it was a combination. As soon as I realized that I wanted to go to college for shooting, and kind of realizing that I could get scholarships for that, I started looking at schools, and they're mostly all down south, they have a team in Alaska, which wasn't really an option. So I started looking at colleges and got some interest from some, and the bigger schools like University of Kentucky and Ohio State, they're expensive. A walk-on option or walk-on opportunity was kind of an option. But then I found out about North Georgia from actually someone that went to NC State, and they were actually a part of my old shooting club.
Nice.
And so he kind of got me in touch with Coach Torrey, and I emailed her, and then we came for a visit, realized that the campus was awesome, the team was great, and they had an awesome business program. So yeah, that was kind of the selling point.
That's fantastic. This is Nighthawk Spotlight, visiting with Tobin Sanctuary, and you made mention of business being attractive with regard to North Georgia. I know as a senior, it's not that long till you make that transition into the real world, and you mentioned before we began today that you'd had a great opportunity this last summer with an internship, and that's something that really is so important. Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to have an internship at Rogers Electric in Alpharetta. And how I got the position was actually kind of cool. I was in my operations management class, and Hugh Scott, the professor, he was like, well, if you need any help with internships, let me know. And at the time I was looking at another one, and he was like, hey, maybe you should look at Rogers, it's a great place. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. He got me in touch with someone in HR, and it turns out that his son was the operations manager there at the time. And so I was able to interview with him and got the position, and it was a really great experience. I was able to kind of apply a lot that I had learned, especially in operations management, but other classes as well. They had me work on all kinds of different projects with inventory management and supply chain. So it was cool because it wasn't just another assignment like in class. If you're given an assignment, it's kind of find the solution and present it and get a grade on it. Sure. But this was real life. So it wasn't just, okay, I need to get the right answer. It mattered, and there isn't always a correct answer, but there is a good solution to something. So that was a really cool experience.
It sounds like that was just a phenomenal experience for you, and one that will serve you well as to make the transition into the real world.
Yeah.
Do your siblings follow the rifle team's competitions?
Yes, I'd say my sister Wendy follows it the most. She actually went to Junior Olympics with me one year, so
awesome.
She kind of was able to watch the whole match. The rest of them, they're interested. I just don't think they don't necessarily have time to log online and watch the targets, and watching in person is probably the most exciting that it can be.
Right.
And so watching targets online probably isn't the most exciting. But they're interested in it and really proud of me for it.
But at least they think about you, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And my dad, every match he's like, hey, can I, watch the link somewhere?
Sure.
Sometimes when we shoot on Friday, he'll be at work and he'll be watching it and text me saying good job. So
that's neat. As a lefty, do you have an advantage perhaps in some of the competitions?
Yeah, not a distinct advantage, I would say. But for some people, the two positions that it affects the most is offhand. So you're standing face to face. If they're a righty, you're standing face to face with them, which makes them rather uncomfortable at times. Some people don't care. I've gotten used to it, obviously, because basically every match I go to, I'm facing someone. So that would be, I mean, maybe a slight advantage, but a disadvantage would be in prone because of you lay your prone mat out on your point, and some people angle theirs, and a lot of times I have to kind of critique my position so I'm not kicking the person next to me. Yeah.
Well, that is interesting. As we wind up our visit, I know you've had so many memories from your time here at North Georgia. If I were to ask you to narrow those down to one or two that stand out above the rest, what would they be?
The first one would definitely be last year. Even though we didn't win championships, I was able to qualify for the finals. So it's the top 8 competitors in small bore, and I was actually able to win the final. So that was a really, really awesome experience, and just something I wasn't expecting. And so be able to perform like that under that amount of pressure was cool and something that I've remembered for a long time. And then the other one, it's not necessarily a specific memory, but I think it was my sophomore year. We were actually at Citadel. We were competing against Ohio State and the Citadel teams, and I did rather poorly and was not pleased at all with my performance. And just the support from team members is amazing, saying, as I especially need to be reminded that my self-worth isn't kind of wrapped up in my performance of that day. That doesn't make who I am, which is really great. And even now, with new freshmen and sophomores that are here, even them kind of reminding me, hey, you know, you did great. And even though to myself, I'm like, oh, I didn't really. But having that support from teammates has just been really awesome.
It sounds like it's been a phenomenal experience for you, personally, with the academics and as well as competitively. We appreciate you being with us here on our Nighthawk Spotlight. Tobin, best of luck as the postseason is around the corner.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Stay with us. Back in a moment.
It takes more than intelligence and talent to succeed in life. It takes grit and a commitment to excellence.
It takes the willingness to serve others and a cause greater than yourself.
It requires you to push boundaries,
Ask difficult questions,
and understand the world around you.
It requires you to know your strengths
and weaknesses, and have the desire to make yourself better than you were yesterday.
It requires you to be independent, efficient, and tolerant.
Ultimately, it requires you to be a leader. At the University of North Georgia, we develop leaders.
Leaders who serve our country abroad to tackle the challenges of the world.
And leaders who serve at home to improve our way of life.
Leaders who never quit.
Leaders who lead by example and not exception.
Leaders who are tough, but fair.
Leaders who are relentless and passionate.
Leaders who solve problems and don't make excuses.
Leaders who do the right thing, even when no one's looking.
There's nothing average about the University of North Georgia and its Corps of Cadets.
If you've got what it takes, then bring it.
A big thanks to everyone who's made this edition of Nighthawks All-Access possible. Thanks to Coach Williams, to Tobin Sanctuary. Best of luck to everyone in those programs. And thanks to the newest partner of North Georgia Athletics, Northeast Georgia Health System. On behalf of everyone here, I'm Craig Corbin. We'll see you next time on Nighthawk All-Access.